Welcome to Advance with Mike Acker, the podcast designed to help entrepreneurs, business leaders, and professionals alike break through barriers by improving their practical leadership skills and increasing confidence in speaking. Your host is a best-selling author, executive coach, and founder of the Advance Public Speaking School and Advantage Publishing Group, two companies dedicated to providing an edge for leaders. Find out more about Mike at mikeacker.com. Now here's your host, Mike Acker.
Welcome to the show, Jeff. I'm excited to dive into leadership and development today with you.
Mike, great to see you. Thanks for having me on.
So first of all, I always like to start with who are you and how would people know about you and your company? And then we'll dive into what people can learn to advance their own career and leadership.
Good. Yeah, my name is Jeff Wright, and I am co-founder of Fusion Projects, a global alcoholic beverage company.
Yeah, when you and I first met, I was joking around. I was like, hey, in exchange for some coaching, just send me some alcohol. And you said, I'll have to drop ship. And then I looked it up. I was like, oh, okay. These are the guys who did Four Loko and Mamitas. And so we ended up not going around that exchange. But tell me, how did you got this started? What's your background? How did you get into business? How did you start this company? Did you always know that it would be this global enterprise in 40 different countries and with the success that we'll hear about here? How did you get started?
So, Mike, great question. We got started in 2005. Honestly, it's truly the true American dream story. In 2005, we saw a market need. We saw the explosion of Red Bull vodka. And we saw that there was a gap in the market of creating something prepackaged, more convenient for consumers to pull right off the shelf from their local convenience stores and grocery stores. They couldn't do this. It was just on-premise focused. So when we noticed that market need, we did some market intelligence, did some market research. And at that time, we had the idea phase completed. We saw the product that we wanted. We had a name picked out, got the trademark for the name, set up an entity. But from there, we needed to raise capital. And that was probably one of the more difficult and challenging things to do when, I was 26 years old, had no idea about raising capital, VC, whatever. So it was definitely challenging and a learning curve.
What I think is very interesting, even though that part right there for people who are listening, because I got a lot of younger people who are listening, thinking about building their careers, and sometimes people think I got to go through and get my MBA. I have to have had that experience. And what you're showing right here is at 26 years old, coming up with this idea after having Red Bull and vodka, that you didn't have any of that experience. So how did you learn how to raise that capital? And what are some things that you did to bootstrap it?
So yeah, at that point, you're right. We had no previous experience, beverage experience or alcoholic beverage experience at that. We had no real experience in raising capital or starting a company. So a lot of it was learn as you go. We made a lot of mistakes through those years. The first thing we did was we put together a business plan, a solid business plan that we could potentially present to investors. Those investors being our friends and family. And that was really all we had at that point. We also were fortunate enough to get an SBA loan, applied for an SBA loan, and were able to receive $150,000. But with that business plan, we had to put together financial projections, sales forecast, and I presented it to my dad, actually. And funny story, I presented my dad. My dad's like, okay, we'll make a run at this. But my dad actually didn't have the capital at that time to invest in the business. And he was looking at putting in roughly $80,000 at the time. So he applied for a home equity line of credit through Chase. Unfortunately, 3 weeks into the process, his loan was denied. And we thought we had to start from ground zero. We had to start from scratch all over again. We wouldn't find the funds. Unbeknownst to me, my dad emails Jamie Dimon, who is the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, goes through the story about us starting a business, the American dream. And within 2 weeks, my dad's home equity line of credit was approved.
That is, see, this is what I love. And even this whole idea of like advance, right? That you got to take those risks. You got to jump out there. You got to believe in yourself. You got to get people who are going to believe in yourself. I did not know that part of the story, and even your dad's resourcefulness, and that's a really cool part of the story.
I think that's one of the best traits I learned from my dad is never take no for an answer, persistence.
Yeah. Which really helped you because then you got to product and that ended up when you were doing the sales. But I don't know if I'm jumping ahead too much here.
No. So from there, once we raised the capital, we had to figure out the industry. We had to figure out suppliers. We needed to source cans, find contract manufacturers, and come up with a formulation. We had no experience in any of this. So we were pounding the phones, looking through Yellow Pages, going through Google, Yahoo at the time, and trying to figure out how to actually put this product together. Fortunately, we found a flavor house that was very supportive in this new venture. They sent us samples, continued to send us samples of different formulations, different recipes until we got to the finished formula. And from there, it was basically off to the races. We had to find distributors and find people to sell the product to.
That's incredible. So you got this going, you figured out everything on the fly, you took that investment. You're working a side job at this point in time, along with the other founders. Is that correct?
That is correct. So we didn't have the cash flow to support salaries for all three of us. So at the time, one of our partners quit his full-time job and was running sales while Jason and myself continued our full-time job and we're working this on the side.
See, I think that's an incredible part of it, that just that resourcefulness. A lot of people are hoping that something will come to them, but you got to make it happen for yourself and go out there. You also have this tremendous belief in what you were doing, and you had people who believed in you, which is a huge part. So then you got this going, and talk to us a little bit about what those early years looked like. Take us through some of the torment of what you learned.
So we were so excited about the product, about going to a convenience store and seeing our product on the shelf. We failed to realize that the product didn't taste very good. It tasted like Robitussin, in fact. So for the next 2 years, I was virtually living out of a Scion XB on a steady diet of a Red Bull and beef jerky, protein bars, trying to peddle this product that no one wanted. We found distributors in the marketplace, opened up those distributors, but the product never really sold through, never rotated. So no new orders were coming in. So for 2 years, it was extremely challenging, a lot of stressful evenings, no sleep, trying to figure out what's our next move.
What stands out to you from that time? What are those war wounds that you go back to where you go in and the sale doesn't go the way you want and you wonder if you should quit?
Yeah, funny story. So I'm flying to Washington to open up a distributor in Eastern Washington. I fly into Spokane, and for me, it's by habit. Every convenience store I drive by, I'm walking in the convenience store to see where the product is. Is it placed on the shelf? Where is it? Where's the competitors? We always wanted to be on the handle. That's the best place to put a product because it's closest to the consumer when they reach into a cooler. So I'm in Spokane. I go into this convenience store. The store owner or store manager wasn't there. I noticed that the competitive set had significantly more facing, so more product on the shelf than we did. So what I usually did is I just walk in the back room and rearrange the shelf, hoping that the store manager wouldn't see me. At that time, the store manager walked out. I could see him through the cooler as I'm sitting behind trying to rearrange this shelf. And unfortunately, a lot of the cans were on top and I couldn't actually reach those cans. So I found a bucket. I pulled the bucket out. I stepped on the bucket, and as I'm rearranging the shelves, the bucket collapses. And what I realize is I'm stepping in, I'm like knee deep in a bucket of hot sauce. So I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to say to the store manager? He doesn't even know I'm back here. I need to pay for a full bucket of hot sauce. I have no idea what that cost, and I've got a shoe full of hot sauce. So it wasn't a great outcome.
That's awesome. I think that's a lot of fun. And so how did you overcome? How did you just not run out of the place? And because I think at this point in time, it's like, cut my losses. And
I waited there probably for 10 or 15 minutes. My foot started to burn. So I figured out I need to go out there and put my tail between my legs and tell this gentleman, the store manager, exactly what happened. So I walked out there, told him the story, apologized, said the company I was working with and working for, paid him, $30 for the hot sauce. And I'm sorry, never happen again. And I'll see you later. Take care.
So you got this product, you got the resourcefulness, you're believing in yourself, you're going through the failure, you're picking yourself back up. And did it just have an overnight success, or what did you have a moment where you thought you were going to close?
Yeah. So, at that point, we knew we had no choice but to try to be successful. So we were very naive. We didn't understand the industry. So we'd ask a lot of questions. And I think that's what drove us to the success we have today. But at that time, money, like you said, money was running out. It was 2007. We had to draw a line in the sand of, hey, if we don't hit these specific revenue targets over the next 6 months, we've got to figure out a payback plan for our investors, which is roughly $150,000. But we knew that if we did not hit those revenue targets, we had no choice, but we'd have to shut down the company.
Yeah. So you drew the line in the sand. And what was this, 2 years, 3 years into the business?
It was about 2.5 years into the business.
I think that's a great thing for people to look at. You're now at the success where you're a globally recognized brand. You're all over the place. And that's a fantastic story. Still a privately owned company, yet you had this really difficult first 2 years. And I just want to encourage the audience, even listening, just listen to Jeff here. Just don't give up, that you draw your line in the sand and have those real moments, but don't just, I think that has to be something that we could say, right? Don't give up too early.
Correct. Yeah. Perseverance for sure. And
So
believing in yourself.
Yeah. So how did things turn around?
So in 2008, we saw a market shift. We saw consumers going to larger can format, more robust, flavorful products. Mm-hmm. And at that time, we noticed there was also a lack in branding on the shelf. So we wanted to stick out on the shelf. In late 2008, we came out with, as part of our innovation, we came out with Four Loko. And honestly, the rest is history. The Four Loko became an overnight sensation. It was actually probably one of the first user-generated content brand sensations of its time. There were hip hop artists coming out with videos on a weekly basis, and we had no idea who these hip hop artists were, but there were millions of people, millions of views on these YouTube channels.
You get that innovation of a new product, and you got the perseverance of getting it out there and just the bootstrapping. All of a sudden it takes off, goes viral. The company, I think you told me in our conversation that it boomed for a while.
Explosive growth for the next 2 years, like unbelievable growth that we could never fathom at the time.
And we'll come back to this part on leadership development later on when we talk about that on the Wednesday segment. So, because I'm totally curious on how you built a team so fast. But you built this team, it exploded, or built the company, exploded. What happened? Because you have a great story of when things just go down and go down fast.
Yeah, I guess what you could say, when things are too good to be true. And that's where we were in 2010. So competitive marketplace was heating up. We were stealing market share from a lot of the major suppliers in the industry. Lobbyists, people were investing heavily in lobbyists against our product, even though it was approved by not only the federal government, but each state and local government. And unfortunately, in late 2010, November 11th, unfortunately, that date is imprinted in my brain. the FDA came out and issued a product recall against our product. At that point, we had to pick up and destroy over 15 million cases worth of inventory, and the cost was north of $25 million. So if you want to talk about a boom splat, that's exactly what happened to us. So we had two choices to make. Either we were pretty well off at the time, or we had to take all the capital that we distributed out and put it back in the business and continue down the path of trying to make this thing work. And we took the second option.
What kept you going? What kept you in it?
The main thing was integrity in our distributor partners. We couldn't leave our distributor partners on the hook with all this inventory, and we had to figure out a way to work with them collaboratively to come up with a solution that would allow us to continue operations from a cash flow perspective. So there was caffeine in our product, kind of like Red Bull vodka, and we took the caffeine out. So on all new orders that were being shipped to our distributor, we credit them a portion of that invoice in order to pay them back for all the caffeinated inventory that was in their warehouses at the time.
What's amazing about this is looking for a little bit less of a loss situation, because there was no real win-win at that point in time. And you didn't really know what would happen, and you're looking at how to not make them lose everything. So you guys took some of the loss, and you, through your relationship and your integrity, convinced them to partake in some of the loss.
Our distributors were, the good thing is our distributor partners were super understanding. They knew that we were young, hungry entrepreneurs, and they wanted to work with us. And it was, it was a symmetrical relationship. We wanted to do the same thing for them as well. Yeah, because we couldn't have done it without them gotten to the point where we did in 2010.
That relationship of trust. How did you go about building something where they didn't just write you off at that point in time?
By showing them commitment and picking up the phone and having those difficult conversations when they're like, what the hell are we doing with, we've got a couple $1 million worth of inventory on the floor that we can't sell, and making them feel okay that we were going to live to our word and step up and pay them back for that inventory.
Yeah, it's incredible. That relationship of trust along the way. I mean, sometimes as I've had a chance to coach people who are starting stuff, there is almost a use and burn relationship aspect. Yeah, I got what I can get out of this person. Let me burn through it and get to the next one. And just from what I've seen and what I've just seen in your company and your own ethics, is just that, it's going to be an invest for the long term.
It's definitely a partnership. It's definitely a long-term partnership and not transactional in our industry.
Yeah. So you were able to turn around, get back going positive. What is just some lessons that you have now, and you just continue to grow, and you got a big, huge new product launch that you and I've joked offline that I'm one of your team. I'm marketing your product. So let's just market it real quick.
Yes, Mamitas. So that was one of our greatest innovations to date. Launched it roughly a year ago. Tequila seltzer product, 5% ABV, 90 calories. It's doing exceptionally well. You can get it at your local retailers. But that, the way that we got through the challenges that we faced in 2010 and after that was through innovation, perseverance, and having a great team of people working for us, all striving for the same thing, rowing the boat the same way. And we're very fortunate to be where we are. In 2010, we were just in the US. Fast forward to today, we're in 40 countries globally. We produce in Mexico, we co-pack in Bolivia, we co-pack in Ireland to support all these different markets throughout the world. So it's an amazing, I'm very thankful and grateful for what we've accomplished.
So those are the three key things that you brought up here, right? This team, this persistence, and this innovation. To the listeners in management looking to move themselves forward, looking to advance their own careers, what would be some nuggets that you would just say to them, things that you've learned, maybe some things that you say to your team, to your executives, to your new team members? What can you share with us?
I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is have a team with open communication and being willing to challenge our ideas. We work better collaboratively and come up with the best ideas as a group and as a team and as a company versus the ideas coming from my partner and I. That's one of the biggest things that we've tried to foster is open, honest, direct communication. And I think that's definitely been integral in our success to date.
What are some things that you've put in place to have that type of open communication?
So we have weekly exec meetings where we've got a list of topics, and the topics are coming from either our vice president of marketing, our chief operating officer, CFO. All these topics are coming from different departments across the company. And during those meetings, we're also adding others that we think are up and comers within the organization to give them exposure to the conversations that we're having and also add value to the conversations that we're having.
So you're actually including people outside of the executive team in these meetings?
Yes. And it's been an incredible development tool as well, because it gives us credibility as leaders in the organization with the rest of their peers.
Yeah. Well, and if I was a 28-year-old who's trying to work my way up and I had an opportunity to be part of that, I mean, that would just, not if that's, I don't know who's all in those meetings, but if I had an opportunity to be part of that, it does open up your mind to a whole new world and new things. So that's a really cool way to invest. What are some other things that you have done to foster innovation? Because you got Mamitas, you've done some other things. You've done alcoholic root beer that you sold off. You did some other things. So what are the things that you've done to not just be Four Loko?
So internally, we're very fortunate to have one of probably the best marketing teams, I would say, in the world. We're always on the forefront of what's coming up, what consumers' habits, consumer research is been super important to us, and we continue to look at those trends. What are consumers reaching for? Are their palates changing? Because as an alcoholic beverage company, we're always trying to capture share of throat. So if people move to spirits, if people are moving to beer, if people are moving to whatever they're moving towards, we need to be on the forefront of that. So our marketing team has been extremely important in our success in innovation, continued innovation.
Yeah, that's interesting, because you and I were talking about this in a previous conversation about how people were moving away from kind of the heavier beer to more of the soda and such. And then you were the first company you said that integrated tequila and soda, which is.
Yeah, so we saw the rapid growth, the exponential growth of tequila in the US, and ranch water, which is tequila soda, was becoming more and more popular. So what we did is we figured out a way to tie the two together, merged those two categories, and came up with Mamitas, which has been extremely successful.
Which is a beach in Mexico.
Yes, it is. A playa in Mexico.
Okay, one of the things I appreciate about you a whole bunch, so talk to me about this on more of a personal note here, is I got a chance to be with you in Mexico, see how you react to just everybody, the guard at the gate, the person serving coffee, and seeing you're not this, even though you got this global company, you come across just as, hey, I'm just Jeff. So what have you done along the way to make sure that you're grounded in who you are, even with your professional success?
I think being a role model and leader and father has been instrumental in who I am as a person today. I want to show my kids, give back as much as you can. I'm on the board of Make-A-Wish in Arizona, which has been an amazing journey. I also believe treat everybody the same, treat them with respect. And those are some of the words that I continue to live by. Selfless.
Yeah. those kind of things ground you even as you're doing everything you're doing. Now we're going to talk a moment about what it talks about leadership development and such, and we'll grab a hold of some nuggets there. Anything else that you want to leave to the audience too? If you could just speak to somebody across the camera here and you would say, if you want to advance in your career, if you want to advance in your leadership, do this.
I think the biggest thing is having a belief in yourself and a belief in the idea. There are many times people told us this product's not going to work. Retailers turned us down thousands of times before they actually brought in product. And the true, honest, and utter belief in yourself is most important.
Were there times where that belief in yourself faded?
Without a doubt. In 2007, when we weren't paying ourselves, we couldn't pay any suppliers. Suppliers were cutting us off because we couldn't pay our bills. Those were pretty dark times. And yes, I started losing belief in myself at that point.
What did you do at that point in time? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people who can relate with this. What did you do at that point in time just to keep going until you got through the other side?
So my dad has been, instrumental in my growth as a human being. Talking to him about the challenges that I was facing, also having a business partner that is going through the same things that you're going through. He's there to pick you up on some days. I'm there to pick him up on other days. It's just those relationships and those bonds that continue to keep the positive momentum moving forward.
Yeah, that's incredible. Hey, Jeff, thank you so much. I really appreciate this part of the conversation. I'm looking forward to continue diving in, but thank you so much for being part of this.
Thanks, Mike. Great to be here.
For all of our listeners, take a moment to like, subscribe, share, pass this on to somebody else that just needs to keep on going as they're starting up their entrepreneurial dream. So until next time, this has been Advance with Mike Acker and Jeff Wright.
Thanks for listening to Advance with Mike Acker, a podcast designed to provide an edge for leaders through improving practical leadership skills and increasing confidence in speaking. Mike is a best-selling author and business owner who has helped many leaders increase their skills and their confidence, propelling them to new heights in their personal and professional endeavors. Join an incredible group of professionals taking the steps to become better leaders at connect.stepstoadvance.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.